Welcome to Atheist Witch, a podcast for witches or any curious minds to learn more about a non-theistic approach to witchcraft. I'm sharing my journey as I find my way between actively practicing witchcraft and navigating a non-theistic viewpoint. I will never present my or others' opinion as fact, and any positions represented in this podcast will be referenced accordingly. Please keep in mind that just like yours, my practice is ever evolving, and my stance may change over the course of this podcast. I'm always happy to discuss this or answer any questions. Please reach out to me on social media or email. Hello, and welcome to the second bonus episode of 2025, Ostara. I'm creating bonus episodes ahead of all 8 Sabbats this year to talk about the history and traditions of each Sabbat and describe how I celebrate them as an atheist witch. I'm recording this bonus series this year because I think a lot of non-theistic practitioners want to observe and celebrate the turning of the wheel and might appreciate some ideas for how to do that without invoking a deity or other supernatural entities. Ostara is traditionally celebrated on the spring or vernal equinox. This year, the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere will be on Thursday, March 20th. In the southern hemisphere, this date is the autumnal equinox, and our southern friends may choose to observe Mabon on this date, celebrating the harvest and the autumn season. The spring equinox officially represents the end of the dark half of the year, as the day and night come back into balance and the days begin to get longer. We're entering the light half of the year, which will last until the autumnal equinox, or Mabon. I'll cover Mabon in a bonus episode later this year when it rolls around for the northern hemisphere in September. As an equinox, Ostara is one of the 4 Sabbats each year that is connected to an astrological event, along with Litha, Mabon, and Yule. Ostara is named in the Wiccan tradition for the Anglo-Saxon or Germanic goddess Easter, who represents spring, fertility, and the dawn. However, Easter isn't as closely tied to this holiday as Bridget is to Imbolc, for example, or Lugh is to Lughnasadh. In fact, not much is known about Easter, and there's not a ton of evidence actually connecting her to any spring festivities. The first mention of Easter associated with the spring equinox was by an 8th century monk describing pre-Christian pagan festivals. Most other mentions have been primarily speculative. However, through whatever historical meanderings, Easter's name is tied to this day, and we can celebrate her as much or as little as we want to. Not all pagans choose to use the Wiccan name for the holiday. Some will use their own preferred names, and some simply call it the spring equinox. Like Imbolc, Ostara is a celebration of beginning. This time of year marks the start of the agricultural season and the start of mating season for some animals. In fact, the spring equinox used to mark the beginning of the year prior to the adoption of the Gregorian calendar. Cultures around the world and throughout history have celebrated the equinox and the beginning of spring, including ancient Europeans, Mayans, and American indigenous peoples. Similar to Beltane, Ostara is heavily associated with fertility and growth, and as such, common symbols of the holiday are eggs, butterflies, rabbits or hares, flowers, and pastel colors like pink, yellow, and green. Some traditional rituals and other ways to celebrate Ostara involve egg-related traditions, like decorating eggs or playing games with eggs, like an egg relay where you might try to balance an egg on a spoon and pass it to your partner without breaking the egg. Another traditional activity around this time of year is spring cleaning, both figuratively and magically, and rebalancing, taking a moment to think about what in your life or yourself maybe has swung a little bit out of balance and what you can do to bring that back. This is also a typical time of year for the tilling of soil and planting of seeds, also literally or figuratively. You could bless and plant seeds in the earth or inside in a pot, And then you could take some time to consider what seeds you plant internally for the year, what your goals are, and what you can do to fertilize those goals. This is also a wonderful time of year to just get outside, take a nature walk, go on a hike, or even just sit outside on a balcony or a backyard and observe the changes that you might be seeing in the world. Maybe buds are blooming on the trees, or maybe you're hearing some birds this time of year that you haven't heard since summer or fall. Around this time of year, for better or for worse, I like to hear the dawn chorus, which is the collection of birds that break into song right before the dawn. They're not great when you're trying to sleep, but they are a wonderful reminder that spring is right around the corner and that the music has come back to the morning. How I celebrate Ostara is a lot of these traditional methods and thoughts with my own personal spin. I definitely engage in spring cleaning, both magically and literally. You might be wondering if an atheist witch cleanses her spaces, and I absolutely do. I will throw open the windows and I will methodically move through my home and do a smoke cleanse or a room spray or even just sweeping out the house with a broom. I will also take this opportunity to refresh the wards around my property and my home. The best part of every Sabbath, as you know, is the food. So around this time of year for Ostara, I'll probably be cooking with eggs, making quiche, frittata, or custard for the celebration on the day of. I'll cook with spring vegetables like asparagus or peas. We always have to have bread for a Sabbath, and so for Ostara, I might go for hot cross buns or honey cakes. And of course, Ostara would not be Ostara without chocolate bunnies or chocolate eggs. I definitely take time this time of year around Ostara, especially to plant seeds in my garden or start seeds indoors to take outside later. In fact, I will often engage in a seed blessing ritual. A seed blessing ritual is the crossover point between literal seeds and internal magical seeds, as it were. In a seed blessing ritual, you might visualize and charge the seeds that you are physically planting with goals or manifestations for the year. That way you can take a physical action that engages your subconscious in the act of planting and watering and fertilizing those goals for the year that can help you engage with that vision and see it come to fruition as your seed breaks ground and grows into a beautiful plant. And maybe even that plant produces fruit or vegetables that you can consume, and so you do in fact actually reap what you sow. I also reach for balance this time of year on the equinox, and the way that I do that in my own practice is through meditation, seeking to look deep inside, find those things that might be out of balance, and then spend time pondering or planning or just paying attention to the things that need to be brought into balance and how I might do that for myself. I don't have a lot of details here because everything is contextual and it may change year over year. More than anything, I just like to spend time in quiet contemplation of the movement from the dark of the year into the light of the year and how I will bring all of my plans from the dark into the growth of the light. Every Sabbath that I can get away with it, pending the weather, I like to have a fire pit or a bonfire or have some representation of fire. Where possible, I will include my rituals around the fire. It's just a way for me to mark the Sabbath as a special occasion and to sort of evoke that really old vision of people gathering around the fire and being part of a community and a celebration. This Ostara, I will probably try to have a fire, provided it is not snowing or raining or anything else that is not conducive to a fire pit. This time of year, I will also decorate my altar specifically for Ostara. I like to include pastel colors and tulips or daffodils, and I have a collection of eggs that I dyed using natural dyes in a previous Ostara that I now keep as decoration for my altar. or around my home. I will always encourage any witchcraft practitioner to find a way to make every Sabbat your own. Just like we talked about in the Imbolc episode, it's important to consider your own environment and how the world looks outside your own windows and what the time of year means for you specifically. My example was the dawn chorus. Not everybody would be very excited about a cacophony of birds first thing in the morning, but for me that is a deep symbol that spring is here and it's time to celebrate Ostara. It's time to put seeds in the ground. It's time to look outside and look for the buds on the trees. So as always, find what the season means for you and lean in and create your own traditions and look for your favorite things, and you can do away with things that don't serve you. Thank you for joining me for this bonus episode about Ostara, and I look forward to the next bonus episode for Beltane. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. The best way to support this podcast is to please like, subscribe, or leave a review. Follow or message me on Insta at anatheistwitch or email me your comments and questions at anatheistwitch@gmail.com.